field of 20 will go to the post for the 133rd Kentucky Derby. And some 150,000 are here at Churchill Downs to witness the most exciting 2 minutes in sports. Hi, everybody. I'm Bob Costas. Well, despite a forecast of rain, the sun is actually trying to poke through right now. It did rain heavily yesterday, but this track, which dries faster than any track in America, is listed as fast. Meanwhile, the favorite in this field of 20 is Street Sense at 5-1. So it's the first Saturday in May, Derby Day in Louisville, where activity begins well before dawn. We sent our cameras out to capture as much of it as possible. Before sunrise, the track that opened in 1875 is silent and empty. But the familiar twin spires stand out even in the darkness, the symbol of the biggest day in horse racing. At the quiet betting windows, a few more hours remain to contemplate exactas, trifectas, and long shots. As morning breaks, a few horses are scattered along the track, and early birds gather along the backstretch to get a glimpse of one of the 20 entrants. The Derby is the biggest event of the year in the state of Kentucky, and the press surrounds trainer Barkley Tagg, whose funny side won here in 2003. Meanwhile, across the street from Churchill Downs is Wagner's Pharmacy. It's been serving breakfast to jockeys and trainers since 1910. Back at the stables, it's all in the family for trainer Steve Asmussen, his children rooting for Dad's 2 horses in today's race, a pair that includes the morning line favorite, Curlin. Asmussen has 2 horses entered. Todd Fletcher has 5, a quarter of the field. In 14 Derby starts, though, he's never won at Churchill Downs. Jamie Sanders is a Derby rookie, hoping to become the first female trainer to win the Run for the Roses. The gates have been open to the public since 8 this morning. Some 150,000 will be here when the race begins. But familiar scenes have been playing out all day. The barbecues, the racing forms. Back in the jockey's room, there's Edgar Prado. Last year, he rode Barbaro to victory. Today, he's a top scat daddy, one of Todd Fletcher's 5 hopefuls. And as the jockeys prepare for the race, tens of thousands in their Derby finery color in a festive scene. Most of them armed with the Derby's official cocktail, the mint julep. And of course, there are the hats, a tradition dating back to the 19th century. Celebrities are in attendance, including those of the royal variety. Noted railbird Queen Elizabeth II making the Derby a stop on her tour of the states. And on the infield, the scene is somewhat less pristine, as the crazies are here for the biggest day of the year in horse racing. The 133rd Kentucky Derby is a little more than an hour away. It is, in fact, the biggest day of the horse racing year, and for a Kentuckian like Tom Hammond, who grew up following this event, it's definitely the biggest day on his sports calendar. Tom is here to anchor our coverage. Take it, Tom.
Well, Bob, you know, as a Kentuckian, the Derby is reason for a party, certainly as we welcome spring, but a chance to showcase Kentucky's signature thoroughbred industry to the world. And beyond that, it's a measure of hope. All the new foals are being born around the state now, and you look in the fields of Kentucky and you see what might be the Derby winner in 3 years' time. It's pretty uplifting. And the realization of dreams is part of the Derby, too, like Jamie Sanders today. She grew up in Kentucky. She fell in love with horses. She worked at the racetrack today. She brings Teufelsberg to the Derby as part owner, trainer, and exercise rider. The realization just being here of a lifelong dream. And this is a year when some wild dreams could be realized. Seemingly every horse has strong positive signs and yet nagging question marks, making picking a winner a daunting task. The betting opened yesterday. Here are the current odds for the Derby. Curlin, who was the morning line favorite, went up a notch at 6-1 now. A couple of notches, as a matter of fact. You see Zanjero, Storm and May. I'm a wild and crazy guy, all long shots. Cowtown Cat, one of Fletcher's 5 horses, 17-1, winner of the Illinois Derby. Street Sense, the 2-year-old champion, 5-1, and the favorite. Hard Spun, he's been off for 6 weeks, but they like him here. He's been getting some money. Scat Daddy, winner of the Florida Derby, 6-1. Tiago, Giacomo's little brother, at 13-1. Circular Key, Fletcher horse at 12-1. He won the Louisiana Derby 8 weeks ago. Any given Saturday, 13-1. Dominican and Great Hunter, the 2 outside post positions, both at 24-1. Well, what's it like to win the Kentucky Derby? What's it like to win it at 50-1? It just leaves you wanting more.
The Kentucky Derby in 2005 was like a sort of a trip for us. Went to the Derby without having any real expectations, only to enjoy the experience of the Kentucky Derby.
For some reason, that morning I woke up and I just had this unbelievable feeling. You know, I was just so pumped and excited.
The crowd is like a huge wave, you know. You're sort of standing in knee-deep water, and this wave is sort of getting up higher and higher and higher, and you go, oh my gosh, what are we doing? We could see his shadow roll pop out, and then you could see him start making a move, you know, and we just go, oh boy, oh boy.
Now we're going to head for home, and I mean, there's a wall of horses, and I just need a break.
Coming down to the finish, closing argument shortly, Giacomo up 3 yards, it's a 3-horse photo finish.
Stood up at the wire, and literally I didn't hear nothing, and then like a second later, boom, the noise comes on, and I mean, it just buckles you. When they started to put the roses over him, and I was just like, wow, I had to pinch myself to make sure it was actually me that was there.
Well, the Santa Anita Derby was very much deja vu.
And boy, those are good beginning.
Turning for home, he's still like, what, 8 lengths back or something like that. All of a sudden, here comes his shadow roll again, you know. Little brothers. Oh, there we go.
Tiago's coming out of nowhere. And Tiago just like Giacomo coming flying along the inside. And Tiago's got up to win the Santa Anita Derby.
It was like the Kentucky Derby all over again. It was just fantastic. It's like returning to the scene of the best party I've ever been to.
Hey, Kentucky! There we go.
Mike Smith earlier in the jockey's room, the Giacomo crew hoping lightning strikes the same spot twice. This is one of those years where we could see another shocker. And back at Churchill Downs, 150,000 crowding the track here. And joined by Gary Stevens, a Hall of Fame jockey who won the Kentucky Derby 3 times and now serves as jockey's agent for Corey Nakatani, who rides Great Hunter from the outside post position today. And Gary, do you agree that this could be one of those years that we get some big prices up on the board because it seems to be very, very wide open?
Absolutely. I don't think Tiago is going to be quite the shocker his big brother was. Right. Giacomo at 50-1. He's got a legitimate chance. But those riders right now in the jocks room, they have to know in their heart that they can win this race. Anything can happen. If you have any negative thoughts at all right now, forget about it. It's not going to happen. You're not going to win it. You got to be thinking positive.
Have the nerves start to hit yet?
Yeah, and if you know you're on the right horse, if those feelings are positive, you go out and you have this peaceful calm over you, especially after you see your owners and trainers out in the paddock area. If they're relaxed, you're relaxed, the horse is relaxed, everything just meshes together.
At this point, do you watch the pre-race stuff on television?
They're in there watching this right now.
Well, let's give them a tour of the backstretch if they're watching us right now. First of all, the jockeys will be riding for $2,210,000 in purses, the 133rd Kentucky Derby presented by Yum Brands. It's the first time any of these 3-year-olds will go 1.25 miles, and they'll all carry 126 pounds. And as Bob noted, despite all that heavy rain yesterday, the track is fast, and the temperature in the mid-70s for this Kentucky Derby. So we were talking about the backstretch, and the real stars of the show, the real celebrities, the real royalty here are the horses that reside there in the stable area of the backstretch at Churchill Downs. So let's check in now with our other commentators to see what's going on the backside. Let's start with Mike Battaglia.
Thanks, Tom. Well, Todd Fletcher is the premier trainer in the United States. He's won the Eclipse Award for the last 3 years in a row, but he's never won the Kentucky Derby. Now, Fletcher has heard himself being compared with Peyton Manning, saying he can't win the big one. Well, Peyton Manning got his Super Bowl ring in January, and although Todd insists that he's not superstitious, earlier this week at a charity auction, he purchased an autographed Peyton Manning jersey. It's in there in his office right now. Todd said that he did it to help the racetrack chaplaincy and because his kids love Peyton Manning. Then he added in true racetracker fashion, but who knows? Maybe it'll be a good omen. Somebody who knows more about good omens, let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
Okay, Mike, at the Curlin barn, let's get one thing out of the way. This is not Curlin. This is one of the lead ponies in today's race, but he is the now horse and the today horse, and that is Curlin. He's tucked in one of the stalls behind me, and He's a perfect 3 for 3. He's won all of his races by a country mile. But here's the rub. He never ran as a 2-year-old, and the only Kentucky Derby winner to win without running as a 2-year-old happened, get this, 125 years ago. That was 1882. The president won Chester Allen Arthur before the invention of the airplanes, the radio, and crayons. Kenny Rice?
Thanks, Bob. I'm here at one of the 5th floor suites, part of Millionaires Row. This is an area that is reserved for the business and entertainment royalty and their guests. And this has always been the toughest ticket in the place until today. Today, the rich and famous bow to Her Majesty, the Queen. Queen Elizabeth, who owns horses, is a horse racing fan who has made many trips to Kentucky over the years, is attending her first Kentucky Derby. She is located at the floor below us in the stakes room. A privileged few have been able to get there today. Our cameras caught up with her earlier as the Queen arrived here at Churchill Downs. So today, on this royal day of racing in the sport of kings, the Queen is here to watch. Now let's go over to Donna Brothers.
Kenny, the last 6 Kentucky Derbies have been won by jockeys winning it for the first time. 2 of the jockeys who are going to be trying to do that today are Robbie Alvarado and Calvin Borel. But the reason why they're a story is because they grew up about 10 miles apart from one another, deep in the heart of Cajun country in southwest Louisiana. Both of them have ridden in the Kentucky Derby before, but this is the first time that they've been on the 1-2 favorites. They are engaged in friendly combat right now on the pool table, but these 2 are friends and rivals, and I can guarantee you this. If one of them can't win it, they're going to be rooting for the other one to win it, Tom.
All right, Donna, and you know, with the retirement of Gary, with Jerry Bailey and some others, that we've seen a change in the jockey colony, and so too in the trainers coming to the Kentucky Derby. Only 3 of today's trainers looking for repeat Derby wins. Barclay Tagg, who had Funnyside, and John Sheriffs, who had Giacomo at 50 to 1 2 years ago. The 3rd trainer to have captured the roses is Carl Nafsker, who won with Unbridled in 1990, producing one of the most touching moments in Derby history. The colt was owned by 92-year-old Frances Genter, and Carl provided commentary for her down the stretch.
He's on the lead, Big Brother. He's on the lead. He's gonna win. He's gonna win. He's gonna win. He's gonna win. He's a winner. He's a winner, Big Brother. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner. He's a winner, Big Brother. He's a winner. He's won it. We won it. You won the Kentucky Derby. Oh, Big Brother, I love you.
Carl, now 65, the former rodeo bull rider, trained Street Sense today, and he talked earlier with Bob Costas.
All right, Tom. Carl, since the win in 1990 with Unbridled, you've only brought one other horse prior to today to the Derby, so you don't come unless you're serious.
Well, I think you should let the horse bring you to the Derby and not bring the horse to the Derby. And we've had one other horse. He won the Fountain of Youth, the Florida Derby. He had a little bit too much speed, got caught up too much in the first part of it, and he didn't run so good. So I know which end I want to be on. I don't like the other end.
On this track last fall at the Breeders' Cup, Street Sense won the Juvenile by 10 lengths over many of the horses that are in this field today. That's got to give you some confidence.
Before the Breeders' Cup last year, I looked at that field, and Jay Priverman, some people asked me, and I said, I think it's a really a top field. I said, these horses are beating each other. But the trouble is they're only beating each other by half a length, and then they come back and beat each other again. But not anybody was getting wiped out or just start running a terrible race. And 5 of the top 5 finishers are back in here today, and they're in the 10 top favorites.
You break from post 7, or Street Sense does, in a crowded field of 20, so he figures to get a good trip.
Well, he does, and it's, you know, sort of unbridled. He broke from post 7 too, and we were lucky to draw selection number 6, and 7 was open, so we said, let's go with it.
Briefly, besides Street Sense, who do you see as the horse to beat, and what will your strategy and the strategy of your jockey Calvin Borel be today?
Well, as far as beating anybody when you run in a Kentucky Derby, if you look on the form, they're all top horses, and there are 19 in there. I said to everybody, you know, when you get in the gate, you're 19 to 1. I don't care what the tote board says, so you got them all to beat. As far as strategy, it's very simple. You tell Calvin, you say, Calvin, you like to ride races. We've had a lot of fun. The horses brought us here. Now, keep it in position so he can take us there.
All right, good luck, Carl.
Thank you.
All right, Tom, in the nearly 2-decade history of the Breeders' Cup, no 2-year-old champion has ever gone on to win the Derby the following spring. Is this the year? We'll soon find out.
It could be, Bob, and of course, shortly after winning that race here, the Breeders' Cup, he mapped out a plan and stuck to it. And while others were training over the polytrack surface down at Keeneland before the Derby, he stayed here at Churchill Downs training over this surface the whole time. Well, if you like Carl's horse or any of the others, you can play Kentucky Derby Lucky You. Win 10 grand and a trip to next year's Derby. Grab your cell phone, hit 70459. Text A for Street Sense, B for Curlin, C for No Biz like Showbiz, or D for the rest of the field. Well, is this Todd Fletcher's year? He has 5 of them going to the post for the Derby. Could be his time. And in the jockeys room here at Churchill Downs, Edgar Prado arrived Scat Daddy today. And it was just a year ago that he guided Barbaro to victory in the Kentucky Derby. It was a brilliant performance, and Gary, it all started to unfold in that run to the first turn.
Watch how aggressive Edgar Prado is here, leading the starting gate. A slight bobble from Barbaro, but Edgar Prado very, very aggressive early on. You have that take no prisoners attitude right now. You can see his entry mate showing up down on the inside. He's in an excellent position right now. Back behind him, though, AP Warrior. Slight hesitation. He's in tight. It's forced hesitation. But he loses all position here. He's going to get shuffled back. That's something you don't want to happen early on in the race. Edgar's right where he wants to be early on. Couldn't be more happy. He parlays that good trip around the first turn into this coming into the stretch. Got a 5-length lead, a ton of horse underneath him. AP Warrior, he parlayed his bad luck into an 18th place finish. This is where you want to be turning into the stretch.
And, of course, from the triumph of this performance, a 6.5-length victory, the biggest in 60 years. In 2 weeks' time, the heartbreak of the Preakness. And then as he captured the hearts of the world with his will to live, Barbaro in his great moment of triumph winning the Kentucky Derby. And Edgar Prado with a peek at the monitor watching live in the jocks room here at Churchill Downs. Well, this was the spot for Barbaro's greatest triumph, and today the track honored the late, great Barbaro with a special ceremony. Roy and Gretchen Jackson, the owners, were on hand, along with John Asher of Churchill Downs, and had a chance to watch a replay of last year's Derby on the big screen, as did the 150,000 here. Bittersweet moment for the Jacksons. They were joined by Bob Evans and Steve Sexton of Churchill Downs, presented a check to the Barbaro Fund. And the most touching moment, the 4th and 5th graders from Semple and Fraser schools here in the Churchill Downs neighborhood, showing off their drawings of Barbaro. Well, you know, we did have the triumph and the heartbreak. One of the worst moments I've spent on a telecast was looking down just below us at the Preakness when Barbaro was injured.
We were sitting next to each other. You saw the tears in my eyes when it happened. I've been a fan of this sport. Horses have been a big part of my life. I saw the piece that we've done for NBC, and I'll tell you what, I relived all those emotions, good and bad, and the fight that he showed living through.
Well, you know, we will have a chance to see all of that. As Gary mentioned, there is a primetime special tonight, Barbaro, a Nation's Horse. It starts at 8 o'clock Eastern and Pacific here on NBC. Well, as we mentioned last year, Michael Matz brought Barbaro here off a 5-week layoff, breaking a 50-year string of horses having races closer than that to the Derby. With that success, it seems that the rules have changed and long layoffs are common now. In fact, a lot of trainers are going against history this year. Curlin would be the first Derby winner since 1882 that did not race as a 2-year-old. His trainer's with Bob Newmeyer.
That's right, it is Steve Asmussen. You're looking at 125 years of Derby history staring you right in the eye, Steve Asmussen. How's this horse going to buck that kind of trend?
Well, he's never been beaten in the Kentucky Derby. That's the only history we have to go by.
How confident are you, and what kind of race do you expect from Curlin here this afternoon?
I know that he'll run an excellent race. Horse is trained extremely well. His confidence level's where you would want it in any horse. And see if we can win the toughest horse race there is.
Says it's the toughest horse race, Tom. Back to you.
All right, Bob, and we look at the odds to see that Curlin is 6-1, the co-second choice at the moment. 5-1, Street Sense is the favorite, one of the long price favorites. Hard Spun at 9-1. double digits on the others. 10-1 no biz like showbiz. He's gone up a bit in recent minutes. Scat Daddy, second choice at 6-1. Tiago 13. Circular Key is 11. Well, one of the things that we want to mention is that Yum Brands bonus that's been put up by Yum Brands, a sponsor of the Kentucky Derby. If someone can beat Barbaro's 6.5 length margin in the Derby, they're going to give them $1 million split between the owner, the trainer, the jockey, and then a quarter of it to charity, to the Barbaro Fund. But one thinks that any self-respecting trainer or jockey would not push their horse in order to receive that bonus, especially with the Preakness and the Belmont down the road. So that has gotten a lot of attention in the media, and it seems like the wrong emphasis for a bonus to be paid out. One of the improbable aspects of this Derby is the trainer Darren Miller and Tommy and Bonnie Hamilton's Silverton Hill Farm have two runners, Sedgefield and Dominican. Silverton Hill is in the small Kentucky town of Springfield. It's about an hour south of Louisville. It's also the home of St. Catherine College, founded and administered by the Dominican Order of Catholic Nuns. And as far as the residents of Springfield are concerned, a little divine intervention would be welcome.
There are more important things in the world that we should be praying for than having this horse win the Derby. But deep in my heart, I really want the horse to win.
I'm praying that that horse wins that Derby.
This is a momentous event that we're having here today. To my knowledge, this is the first time the Washington, Marion, Nelson County has ever had a horse in the Derby.
The courthouse is almost shut down because we're all out here partying down. We're all excited. We're ready for Dominican to just take away the Derby and put Springfield on the map.
We haven't had anything this big in Springfield for a long time, so we're really pushing it to the max.
We're going to celebrate Dominican and Sedgefield. Like, we have some horses across the street. I like rubbing their noses. Their noses are real soft.
We don't take many field trips, so they're not only excited about our two horses running in the Derby, but we're also excited about being on a field trip.
There's just not a whole lot that goes on in a small town that's really exciting, you know, and they've got something to be really excited about, and so everybody's just electrified.
All right, everybody, let's hear it. First bunch from Fredericktown. We're going to get a really close to the show.
Lots of people have been raising horses all their life and never got one to the Derby. Luck be it, the Hamiltons got two, and I sure hope that they win it.
The town has done a great job supporting us, and they've just helped feed the fever.
You need all the edge you can get in this game.
Absolutely. God on our side and the Dominicans praying.
If we have a Derby winner, there'll be a flag flying, and who knows, maybe there'll be a new building named Dominican Hall.
Maybe it'll draw
Maybe it will draw vocations to the religious life. Who knows? Go Dominican! Go Dominican!
And there is the hero kicking up his heels. Dominican beat Street Sense by a nose in the Bluegrass. He's unbeaten this year. Will he do it in the Derby for Springfield and the Nuns? Balls over to the chute where they kind of go in a circle now until they're given the call to walk over to the other side of the track where they'll go to the paddock to be saddled. And as we look at the current odds, we see that Curlin now the 5-1 co-favorite with Street Sense. 9-1 on Hard Spun. Teufelsberg a 49-1 shot. No Biz Like Showbiz 10. Scat Daddy 7-1. He's been a hot horse. Circular Key at 11. Any given Saturday 13. And you may notice that this year marks the first Derby since 1980 that Wayne Lucas, Bob Baffert, and Nick Zito, with 9 wins between them, have not had a horse in the Derby. The torch is definitely being passed. The last 4 Derbies, in fact, have been won by first-time trainers. But the man who's dominated the national trainer standings still has not won a Triple Crown race and is 0 for 14 at the Derby. Todd Fletcher, the 39-year-old Texan, has built a remarkable operation based on organization and attention to detail. He supervises the training of 200 horses, but seems to know intimate details of every one. Last year, he set records with 100 stakes wins and purses won of $26.8 million. And now he joins Zito and his mentor Lucas as the only trainers in history with 5 horses in a single Derby. Fletcher's dad, Jake, was and is involved with racing, and so, in a slightly different way, was Doug O'Neill's dad.
My dad is a huge horse racing fan. When I was 10, he took me to Santa Anita, and just, wow, all these colors and these beautiful horses. I fell in love with it, right away. Probably the first time that I thought of this is going to be something that's going to be a big part of my life.
Nearly 3 decades later, Doug is living out the dream his father inspired. With the help of his brother Dennis, he built his stable from the ground up and turned his dad's hobby into a family business.
The relationship between Dennis and I have always been very close. It's evolved into, now he's my best friend. He's very much a part of any success we have here at the barn.
The beauty of Doug O'Neill is he's a very, very positive person in life. So whenever I'm down, you can always call him and he can pick me right back up.
All of Doug's support was needed when, after losing their father to heart disease and their younger brother Danny to cancer, Dennis was diagnosed with cancer last year.
Yeah, to say it was brutal is a huge understatement. I did a lot of hanging out in the hospital and reading the form to him and just kind of keeping the focus on, hey, we're going to beat this thing, and we got to keep this business thing going too. I need you.
I think as close as we were, the cancer thing almost made us closer, which is hard to believe, but it was a very, very tough thing to go through. Thank God right now everything looks pretty good, and they caught my cancer early and everything seemed to go well. It was a huge wake-up call, that's for sure.
With Derby dreams, it just seems so far-fetched even a few years ago. And this business is very humbling. You hate to look too far ahead. My brother and I and the whole team here realize how fortunate we are and how lucky we are, and we're just going to enjoy the heck out of it. If my dad, if he was here today, would be very, very proud. Even though he was never a trainer, he's, a trainer through me.
O'Neill trains a couple of long shots today. Number 9, Liquidity, and also the horse that breaks from the outside post, number 20, Great Hunter. Soon the horses will begin their walk over to the front side of Churchill Downs. Back at Churchill Downs, the 3rd largest crowd of all time, over 156,000, as the horses begin to make their way over to the paddock to be saddled. And as the horses start to walk over, let's go down to the track and join Mike Battaglia with Todd Fletcher.
All right, thank you, Tom. And Todd, you are known as the consummate professional. Some people say you've got ice water in your veins. You run your barn in a very business-like manner, which you have to do with that many people. But as you walk over here for the Kentucky Derby, is this more than just business today?
Oh, without a doubt. No matter how successful you are, these are the kind of races that define your career. So, these are the kind we want to win the most.
And, you've got your family here, your dad, your mom. What would it mean to your family for you to win a race like this?
Well, that's the great thing about this. You can share it with everybody. My kids are here, my wife, my mom, my dad, so that makes it a lot of fun when you can share these experiences with them.
And you are the top trainer in the country right now, destined to go down as one of the greats of all time. But do you need to win this race to actually be put in that category?
Definitely. This is the one everybody wants the most, including me. So, yeah, I think so.
All right, Todd, good luck. Let's go to Kenny Rice.
All right, thanks, Mike. We heard Tom Hammond at the first of the show talk about how special this is, especially to a Kentuckian, and especially to Jamie Sanders, who is going over as the first-time Derby trainer. You've made this walk before working with Nick Zito as an assistant. You've been an exercise rider. What's it like to have a $9,000 horse coming out of Brownsville, Kentucky?
It's a tremendous feeling. This horse deserves to be here. We are so happy to have this opportunity, and we love this horse, and we love Kentucky. So.
Nick Zito, very popular Kentucky Derby winner here, your boss for a long time. He called you just a few moments ago before the walkover. What did he say?
Tell the Queen hello. And he said this is the first of many. He has a lot of confidence in me. I have a lot of confidence in him, too. So.
Good luck. Teufelsberg will come out of post position number 10. He's had some trouble at the gate, but he will be one of the last two to load in for Jamie Sanders. Let's go to Donna Brothers.
Barkley, you started training horses many years ago. It took you 31 years to get to the Kentucky Derby. The first time you got here, that was in 2003. You made your first trip here winning one when you won with Funny Side. Did it ever occur to you that you would now be making your third trip in just 4 years after that when you came over here?
Well, it didn't really, I didn't think about it a whole lot. I was just grateful to be here the first time, and it's kind of what everybody dreams about doing. And I was hoping it would happen again, and it has, so I'm very happy about it.
Funny Side was a different kind of horse than No Biz like Showbiz, and the wheels kind of fell off when he hit the crowd walking over here with Funny Side. Compare and contrast walking over here with him with this horse today.
Well, I thought Funny Side would be pretty cool about it. In fact, I felt like the other guys, I was starting to feel sorry for him because I heard all this crowd, and I thought, well, I've got the coolest horse in the world. And he was the only one who freaked out when he did it. But I had a lot of confidence in this horse. This horse is a different type, and he doesn't get his adrenaline up quite as much. And you can see he's pretty laid back.
Good luck to you, Barkley.
Thank you.
Let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
Well, I can really feel Hard Spun's hot breath here, and Larry Jones actually went on the shank to try and calm him down a little bit. A little worked up?
No, when he just first turned this way, and a lot of people run right in behind him. Kind of got his rear end up under him, but we're good now. Everything's good.
You've made this walk hundreds of times at Churchill Downs. First time in the Kentucky Derby. Any different?
Well, there's 2 more people here, Bob. But yeah, it never hit me until we come out of the stall with him, and then it's like, oh geez, Kentucky Derby, and this is it.
We ran that workout the other day. Stopwatches smoking. Did you burn them out the other day?
He worked very well. Just showed me that hopefully he's on his peak. He loves the track, and hopefully he's going to get to show that today.
Good luck.
Thank you, Bob.
Let's go to the paddock and Bob Costas.
All right, Numi, we're on top of the jocks room with Mike Smith, who is the most experienced jockey in today's field in terms of Derby experience. This is his 14th Derby, won aboard Giacomo 2 years ago. His mount today, Tiago, is the half-brother of Giacomo, as we've told you, and many people see a lot of similarities in their styles. You'd know better than anybody. Is it true?
Well, the styles are certainly a lot of similarities there because of the fact they both come from way out of it. But Giacomo was more of a stayer. He just kind of kept coming at you, whereas Tiago has gears. I mean, he's actually a little more agile, so that helps.
All right, like Giacomo, Tiago likes to come from way back, as you just said. What will you need to see in front of you to let you know that it's time to make your move?
Well, when I do my handicapping, I also pay a lot of attention to the racing silks, just so I know who's who and who's what. And then the second thing you want to do, Bob, is really watch their action, watch the jockey's action. If you see him already moving his elbows and slapping on their neck, well, you know he's probably had a horse, so that's when you certainly want to try and get up and behind something like that. But that's what I watch for a lot.
Mike, good luck today.
Thank you.
Mike Smith was aboard Tiago to win the Santa Anita Derby, the only time he has ridden the horse before today, and he goes in the Derby for the 14th time looking for his second victory in about 45 minutes or so. Let's go to Tom.
All right, Bob, and I think Mike would appreciate equine competition of a different sort as horses come from all over the world to compete amid the bluegrass of Kentucky and Lexington. The ultimate test of horse and rider. Don't miss the Rolex Equestrian Championship tomorrow, 5 Eastern, 2 Pacific, here on NBC. Grandstand is where the horses will be saddled and where the jockeys and trainers will meet for final instructions as the owners look on. Let's check the current odds as Street Sense has regained favoritism. Curlin now back up to 5-1, while Street Sense is at 9-2, 4.5-1. Scat Daddy is 7-1 as we look at that second page of odds. And everybody else is double digits. And here's where the nerves start to take hold as the horses come into the paddock.
You know, we just watched all these horses walk right in front of where we're sitting here right now, and they're all very, very composed. But like you said, when they walk into that paddock, it's very, very crowded in there, and almost like gladiators down there in arena. And it gets hot in there. It's probably about 40 degrees hotter in there than what it is right now, and just starts getting chaotic.
Well, this year we celebrate a couple of significant Derby anniversaries. 50 years ago, a jockey, the great Bill Shoemaker, figured prominently in the outcome of the Derby. Maybe the deepest field ever. He misjudged the finish line on Gallant Man, realized his mistake, got to riding again, but missed by a nose of catching Iron Liege. And 70 years ago, the year the Great Ohio River Flood reached Churchill Downs, War Admiral won the Derby on his way to the Triple Crown. And then it was the next year that the whole country came to a stop for the match race between War Admiral and Seabiscuit at Pimlico. And let's take a look now at the Comcast Triple Crown Classics. 3 great moments in Triple Crown history. Secretariat winning the Kentucky Derby in '73, setting the track record 159-2 that still stands. The 30th anniversary of Seattle Slew becoming the only unbeaten Triple Crown winner. And in 1978, of course, one of the greatest Triple Crown races ever, Affirmed and Alydar head-and-head, the final mile with Affirmed winning it to become the most recent Triple Crown winner. We could have put Secretariat's 31-length victory of the Belmont in there as well, perhaps, but that was some race, the Belmont Stakes in 1978. Street Sense being saddled there by Carl Nafsker. See Carl in the background. Street Sense is the favorite at 9-2 at the moment. And as we check in with our handicappers, they've been on somewhat of a roll. Mike Battaglia, who makes the morning line odds here at Churchill Downs, had a big price winner on our Sunshine Millions telecast back in January. And Bob Newmeyer has picked the last 2 winners on our Triple Crown telecast. But as they say as a racetrack, fine. Who do you like here?
And that money's all spent. It's gone.
What have you done for me lately?
I know. We've got to do it again. You know, I'm of the opinion that you run this race 5 straight days, you're going to get 5 different winners. I think it's just that wide.
A lot of tired horses.
Yeah, right.
I agree with you. It's that tough. I think I like Fletcher.
Well, he's got 5 in here, Mike, and he could sweep the board here. He could run 2, 3, 5, 1, 3, 4. I think all his horses are alive, maybe except for Stampede, but he's loaded this year.
So you're going to give me Fletcher?
Well, you're not going to take all 5. You got to narrow it down. You got to narrow it down.
I'm going to go for Circular Key on top. I know he hasn't raced in 8 weeks, but my motto there is trust Fletcher. I think he'll have this horse ready. I know he likes the track. He was second to Street Sense in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and I think Street Sense is the horse to beat. Matter of fact, I'm going to take an exacta box with those 2 horses, Circular Key and Street Sense, but wide open race for me.
We're going to keep this simple. Hard Spun is 5 for 6 on paper. His average winning length's 6. Great speed. He's a little walked, kind of geared up coming over here. Right. He had that big workout the other day. But you know, in a race you could take 8, 9, or 10 horses. I'm going to go with Hard Spun at about 10-1 in this race.
And it's tough to knock Curlin. He has never lost. We don't know how good he is, but I actually think the other Steve Asmussen horse, Van Harrow, could run well at like 30-1. I'm going to toss him in on the bottom of some gimmicks.
Yeah, it's a good time to just take a hunch, you know, and play something, play a name. And I know those guys in the infield. I'm a wild and crazy guy. That's who they're playing.
No doubt about that, Tom.
All right, guys, I'm a wild and crazy guy. He used to be anyway. He's a gelding now, you know. Big crowd in the paddock. And we'd like to invite you to play along. Not too late to enter our Kentucky Derby Lucky You game. 36% for Street Sense. Curlin 25%. No Biz like Showbiz at 15%. And the rest of the field 24%. So they like Street Sense. You can still enter. Grab your cell phone. Hit 70459. Text A for Street Sense, B for Curlin, C for No Biz Like Showbiz, or D for the rest of the field. You could win 10 grand and a trip to next year's Derby. And by the way, for all things Kentucky Derby, a great resource for you is KentuckyDerby.com.
Right here.
This is a Derby tradition, the posing of the jockeys for the official portrait to mark their ride in the 133rd Run for the Roses. Back at Churchill Downs, the jockeys being summoned from the jockeys' room to head to the paddock. And they'll get some final instructions from the trainers and get a leg up on their mount for the Kentucky Derby. Gary, you've made this walk a few times.
Yes, I have, and there's some butterflies going on right now, no matter if you've ridden a Derby before or you haven't. Julian Le Peru riding a long shot in here. He's still got butterflies. He's realistic enough to know that he's got to have some prayers going for him today to win this race, but I can guarantee you he's thinking positive. Mario Pena, a lot of people don't know who he is. He rides Hard Spun. He's won over 5,800 races in his career. He's third on the all-time list. He's never ridden in the Derby, but he knows the territory. This isn't going to be a big deal for him other than it is the Derby, a big event. Then you've got Calvin Borel. This is the first real opportunity he's had to win the Derby. He's ridden in it 4 other times. Hadn't had real good chances. I've seen the confidence in him all week long. Then you've got the guy like Johnny Velasquez. Had his choice of 5 different horses to ride for Todd Fletcher in here. That's his go-to guy. He'd win 1 on every one of these horses. How do you decide what to ride? He's riding Circular Key, a horse who's run very, very well over this racetrack, but in the back of his mind right now, he's wondering, did I choose the right one?
And there you check the current odds, and you mentioned Calvin Borel, who rides Street Sense. 90 years ago, 1917, the Derby was won by a Borel, Charles Borel, who rode Omar Cayenne. Let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
Well, thanks, Tom. We're taking a look at Steve Asmussen's other horse. That's Zanjero. He's a live long shot based on his excellent finish to Street Sense. That was at Keeneland in the Bluegrass. But there's another reason to like Zanjero. You know, people at the racetrack think that things happen in threes. For example, if a jockey wins 2, the chances are he's going to win a 3rd. Well, think of the winners of the last 2 years of the Kentucky Derby. Barbaro and Giacomo. 7 letters that end with an O. Zanjero, 7 letters that end with an O. Tom?
I'm still trying to figure that out. Who does it apply to? We'll have to figure that out. We'll be back to Churchill Downs with the answer. Back at Churchill Downs, we have done the research. We've counted all the letters and the horses' names, and the answer is indeed, as Bob said, Zanjero, who has 7 letters and ends in an O. Meanwhile, Todd Fletcher has been a busy man. His plan was to saddle all 5 of his horses before the Derby himself, and indeed, he did. I don't think he really went this fast, but you need to keep up with Todd Fletcher these days. As far as the final riding instructions for his jockeys, well, he met with them between races today here at Churchill Downs. There was enough time during the card to give each rider specific instructions on each of his 5 horses. Keeping right after it, he said he thought he'd have plenty of time to saddle them all, and indeed he did. Todd Fletcher sending 5 to the post here in the Kentucky Derby. Queen Elizabeth still looking on among the 3rd largest crowd of all time at Churchill Downs for the Derby, 156,000. And we're just about ready for the command of riders up in the paddock as the horses will begin their trek to the track. Tyler Picklesheimer, the paddock judge at Churchill Downs, will give the command.
Okay, Darren, you ready? Okay, let's go, guys.
Riders up! And there's Sedgefield with jockey Julien Leperot getting a leg up. Curlin with Robbie Alvarado, the veteran jockey. Number 3 is Zanjero. Bob talking about him a moment ago. The gray storm in May, blind in the right eye since he was 3 days old. I'm a wild and crazy guy. The 5 horse, also a gray. There's a leg up for Fernando Jara on Cowtown Cat. Street Sense, the favorite, Calvin Borel, who took him on a rail skimming ride to win the Breeders' Cup Juvenile here at Churchill Downs. Hard Spun went by. Liquidity, the long shot trained by O'Neill. Teufelsberg expected to show some early speed with Stuart Elliott up. Moana Bull goes by. Javier Castellano. No biz like Showbiz. Barclay Tagg trained him, hoping for the same result he had with Funny Side. Lucky 13 is Sam P. Scat Daddy is next. Edgar Prado looking to ride him back to back. And coming up next, Steve Buttleman with a call to the post, followed by that great moment, My Old Kentucky Home.
Ladies ladies and gentlemen, the management, staff, and horsemen of Churchill Downs proudly present the 133rd running of the Kentucky Derby, presented by Yum Brands. Please rise for the playing of My Old Kentucky Home.
And here are the 20 horses for the 133rd edition of the Kentucky Derby, the first jewel in thoroughbred racing's Triple Crown. They'll make their turn on the track and begin their parade in front of the stands just before their warm-up. And again, we say the third largest crowd in Derby history with 156,635 looking on. Number one is Sedgefield, named for an Alabama plantation where owners Tommy and Bonnie Hamilton competed in bird dog trials. 24-year-old French-born Julien Leperoux's heart pounding right now in his first Derby. Number two, Curlin, named for Charles Curlin, a freed slave who fought for the Union in the Civil War and was the great-grandfather of part owner Shirley Cunningham Jr. Curlin sold for a reported $3.5 million following his first win, now 3 for 3 by a combined 28.5 lengths. Number three, Zanjero. The name means watermaster in Spanish. A $700,000 Keeneland yearling purchase, who was a close-up third in that track's Bluegrass Stakes. Number four is Storm in May, a hunch bet considering the weather we had here yesterday. Maybe so. No protection, you'll notice, for that blind right eye on Storm in May. It's the first Derby for Kaplan the trainer and Juan Leyva, 23-year-old native of Mexico City. I'm a wild and crazy guy, ridden by Mark Guidry. It's his last Derby. He got his 5,000th winner on Friday. He'll retire this summer. Number six is Cowtown Cat, named for Fort Worth by some of the Texans involved in ownership. 19-year-old Fernando Hara was fourth in the Derby on Jazzle last year, then won with that horse in the Belmont. Cowtown comes in off wins in the Gotham and Illinois Derby. Number seven, Street Sense. Can he break the jinx? He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile here by 10 lengths, but no winner of that race has taken the Derby. Calvin Borel has won over 4,000 races, but 0 for 4 at the Kentucky Derby. 8 is Hard Spun, a dream come true, says the cowboy, Larry Jones, a Kentucky native in his first Derby, and ditto for Mario Pino, who has ridden nearly 5,900 winners. Hard Spun has had a 6-week layoff since winning the Lanes End. Number 9, Liquidity. After a couple of disappointing races, Doug O'Neill is trying something new. Look at his bridle. It's called a Sure Win and is designed to keep the bit up high in his mouth. Number 10, Teufelsberg, the Devil's Mountain in Germany. A $9,000 yearling who could give Stuart Elliott a slice of history. He would join Willie Sims as the only riders to win the Roses on their first two mounts. Elliott, of course, on Smarty Jones in 2004. Looks like Teufelsberg feeling good as he kicks a little bit. 11, Buana Bull, Northern California based, son of Holy Bull, the sire of Giacomo, winner of the California Derby and El Camino Real, but 5th in the Santa Anita Derby. Number 12, No Biz Like Showbiz. Elizabeth Belando turned down a big price for this colt, named because her late husband Tommy published dozens of Broadway scores. No Biz, winner of the Wood Memorial. 13, Sam P., the human namesake, 87-year-old Sam P. Burton, who flew the hump over the Himalayas in World War II. The equine Sam P. has never gotten over the hump. Third is the favorite in the Santa Anita Derby. 14, Scat Daddy. That's Todd Fletcher's name for half-owner James Catorcio. The colt was hot at Gulfstream, winner of the Fountain of Youth and Florida Derby 5 weeks ago. 15, Tiago, Giacomo's little brother, named for the son of Sergio Mendez, one of Jerry Moss's artists at A&M Records, and woke up big time in the Santa Anita Derby. 16, Circular Key. John Velasquez chose this colt as Fletcher's top rider. Johnny 0 for 7 at the Derby. It's been 8 weeks since Circular Key won the Louisiana Derby. 17 is Stormello, bred, partially owned, and trained by Bill Curlin, who took him cross-country for a second in the Fountain of Youth and fourth in the Florida Derby. Two-time Derby winner Kent DeSormo up. 18, Any Given Saturday, ridden by Garrett Gomez, who led the country with $20 million in purses last year. His fourth attempt in this race, and now on a colt who most recently was third in the Wood Memorial. 19 is Dominican the gelding, and the operation has made him an improved horse for trainer Darren Miller. Only 2 starts this year, both wins, including the Bluegrass by a nose over Street Sense. And number 20 is Great Hunter, Corey Nakatani, in his 13th Derby on Great Hunter, looking for his first win in this classic. Great Hunter 5th with a rough trip in the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland. Those are the horses. The 133rd Kentucky Derby is next.
In a few minutes, we'll know who wins the 133rd Kentucky Derby. But for now, there are questions.
And they are off in the Kentucky Derby.
In 14 starts, Todd Fletcher has never won this race. With 5 chances, will today be his day? Tiago has the pedigree. Can he follow in the footsteps of his half-brother Giacomo? Or will divine intervention put Dominican in the winner's circle? What's in store for Jamie Sanders? Can a female trainer win the Derby for the first time? Will beginner's luck smile on 38-year-old Derby rookie Doug O'Neill? Or can a horse blind in one eye defy the odds? Will expectations be realized for undefeated Curlin? Many questions loom under the twin spires. The answers are moments away. And at least one more question occurs to me, Tom, after a very rainy day yesterday. I wonder if some hunch players are backing Storm and May, or maybe Stormello. At this point, if you put them together in an exacta box, a $2 bet would return around $3 grand. On the other hand, if it doesn't work out, my number is unlisted, and I employ heavy security. Tom?
I'm glad you checked it out. Street Sense is the 9-2 favorite right now, and Curlin is 5-1. Well, of course, our former jockeys, Donna Brothers and Gary Stevens, had a good look at the horses as they went by us and as they warm up. Anything catch your eye, Gary?
Yeah, Curlin looked outstanding to me. I was going to ask Donna what he's looking like over on the turn since he's warmed up. And a couple of the horses looked like they were melting to me already. Cowtown Cat, Teufelsberg, Stampede, they were getting a little more wound up than I would have liked to see, Donna.
Gary, I couldn't agree with you more. 2 of the horses ended up having to go away from their ponies, not because they were bad, but because the ponies were bad. That was Storm and May and Tiago. You know, it's the biggest crowd any of these horses have ever seen, but I agree with you that Cowtown Cat hasn't taken it very well. Teufelsberg, we didn't expect for him to take it very well. In fact, they chose the number 10 post position for him because he'll be the last to load in the first set of horses. He'll actually be the second to last to load as they load the 1 and the 11 simultaneously and go down from there. We'll just have to keep an eye on him as they head up. But you mentioned Curlin, and Gary, he still looks good. He hasn't turned a hair. But as we talk about him, I'm looking over at Street Sense, and he looks pretty happy about his conditioning right now, too.
By the way, who said Wayne Lucas didn't have a horse in the Derby? That's Junior, his lead pony that Donna's riding today. She borrowed him for the occasion.
If you put him in the gate, he might win this thing.
As you see, the horses have reached the starting gate and now begin to load. That was the 11 Bawana Bull. And number 12, No Biz Like Showbiz, Todd Fletcher. His 5 horses, most people think at least 4 of them have a good shot. Carl Nafster trained the 2-year-old champion. He won the Derby 1990, unbridled. Will this be the time he repeats? He's been in semi-retirement now, 65 years old. He could do it again. Or will lightning strike again for the Giacomo crew? Jerry Moss and company. They won at 50-1. They have Tiago today. The Cowboy, Larry Jones, looks on. His Hard Spun has been getting a lot of play at the Mutual windows this afternoon. There's a look at Tiago, the little half-brother of Giacomo, with Mike Smith again in the saddle. Remember, he's weaving his way through traffic in that shot we had a couple of years ago. Circular Key into the gate. One of the Fletcher horses. 17 is Stormello, the aforementioned by Bob Custis. Kent Sormo up, looking for his 3rd Derby victory. Any given Saturday, the 18. The 19, Dominican, Springfield, Kentucky, rooting for he and for Sedgefield, who's in post position 1. And as they get into the gate for the 133rd Kentucky Derby, here with the call, let's go to Tom Durkin.
One more to load here, and that is Teufelsberg. And on the outside, there is Great Hunter. 23-year-old set for the 133rd running of the Kentucky Derby. This will be the first time that starter Scott Jordan will dispatch the field. There you see Dominican and Rafael Bejarano. They will lead from post position 19. The last of them all will be Great Hunter and Corey Nakatani aloft. Ready for the start. They are in the gate. They're off in the Kentucky Derby as Teufelsberg breaks like a shot, and Hard Spun with speed too, and Cowtown Cat has some early speed as a crush of horses passes beneath the Twin Spires for the first time, and it's Hard Spun to be the early leader. Here's Stormello on the far outside. He'll be caught wide going into that first turn. In between horses, Teufelsberg right there 3rd, Cowtown Cat up and on the pace between horses 4th. On the far outside, Scat Daddy is running in 5th. Sedgefield 6th toward the inside. No Biz Like Showbiz is 7th in between horses. Any given Saturday is now 8th. Liquidity is 9th toward the inside. Dominican runs in 10th. Great Hunter is 11th. Sam P is 13th. Curlin is 14th in the opening half mile here. Moana Bull is 15th. Zen Harrow is 16th toward the inside. Tiago moves to 17th. Circular K is 18th. He's about 20 lengths from the lead. And then down toward the inside, it's Storm and May. Street Sense is second to last. Street Sense is the 19th of 20 as they continue down the backstretch run. The last of them all is I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy. And the speed is tough here, a 46-1 opening half mile as Hard Spun bowls along as they cross into the final half mile of the Kentucky Derby. Teufelsberg is second on the outside. Sedgefield tucked away toward the bale 3rd. Stormello is 4th on the outside and now beginning to advance. No Biz Like Showbiz. Any given Saturday is right there. On the far outside, Great Hunter is launching a bid. He's moving wide as they approach the top of the stretch. And there's Street Sense with a huge move on the far turn. And Calvin Borel saving ground every step of the way. But it's Hard Spun to catch as they come off the turn. A mile and 37 flat. And Street Sense draws alongside as they move headlong into the final furlong. And Street Sense has roared from 19th position to 1st in the Derby. Hard Spun ties the hole for 2nd. And then farther back at Sedgefield on any given Saturday. And here is Street Sense, a stretch running sensation to win the Derby by 2. Hard Spun was 2nd. Curlin finished 3rd. And I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy was 4th. The final time for this Derby, 2 minutes and 2 seconds.
Street Sense breaks the jink, the first winner of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile in 22 years to have taken the Kentucky Derby. Calvin Borel, very popular in the Riders' Colony. Look at him. He is absolutely beside himself, standing straight up in the irons, accepting congratulations. His first Kentucky Derby, and Carl Nafster wins for the 2nd time. He mapped out a plan for his champion, never deviated from it. Many others were training on the poly track, and thumbs up to you, Carl. Stayed here at Churchill Downs to train over this strip. He knew he loved it, and did he ever. And Calvin Borel, who loves to come through on the rail, they call him Calvin Borel at Churchill Downs, got through coming from 19th, and Donna is next to him right now.
Calvin, you've won over 4,000 races, but this is your first Kentucky Derby. What are your feelings?
I just want to thank my brother to get me here. I wish my mama and daddy was here. This is the most greatest moment of my life. And thank the owners and the trainer for getting me here.
Calvin's brother is 12 years older than him and practically raised you as a father. He's played a big role in this. What's it mean to you to have your brother here for you to watch this?
Thank you, Gay. It's a big, big road. It's the most unbelievable road in my life. Thank you, G. Thank you, baby.
I almost can't talk to Calvin because all the jockeys are congratulating him. Calvin, this is a horse that you've been on since his very first quarter-mile breeze as a 2-year-old until mile and a quarter today. Did you believe all along as a 2-year-old he could do this?
Yes, ma'am. I called my brother one day and told him not to run a horse against him because he was the master. And I'd like to thank my fiancée Lisa for getting me here. She did a lot of job for me.
Calvin, congratulations, Tom. He's very, very happy. In fact, you can't see it from up there, but Calvin has tears in his eyes over this one.
Yeah, tears of joy, Donna. And Gary, you know, when Street Sense won the Breeders' Cup, 10 Lengths became the favorite for the next year's Kentucky Derby. I'm sure that Carl Nafsker's phone was ringing off the hook with all the top jockeys, their agents calling, wanting them out on Street Sense and saying Calvin Borel isn't up to the Kentucky Derby. And what about Carl Nafsker for sticking with him?
I can tell you that his phone was ringing off the hook. And I can go back to 1988 when I was riding Winning Colors. Wayne Lucas stuck by me. He had every leading rider in the country calling him. Wayne told me after the Santa Anita Derby, he said, Gary, this is your filly. Don't worry about it. Calvin Borel, his agent, Jerry Hissam, they knew this colt was theirs from the first time that he climbed on his back. Your confidence level goes up because you know that you have no pressure on you. Calvin Borel just proved that with the ride that he gave there. Stuck to his game plan. A lot of guys would have been worried about getting stuck on the rail. Not Calvin. Had a lot of faith in this horse, and the trainer had a lot of faith in him.
Well, it's a lesson in loyalty, trainer and jockey. And it pays off big time here in the Kentucky Derby as Street Sense, the 100th Kentucky bred to win, the longest price favorite to win at 9-2, but the 51st betting favorite to take the roses on the first Saturday in May at Churchill Downs. Street Sense owned by Jim Taffel, trained by Carl Nafsker. He is a 3-year-old colt by Street Cry from Bedazzle by Dixieland Brand, bred in Kentucky by the owner, Jim Taffel. Look at this. What a moment for Calvin Borel.
Now, I've ridden with Calvin for over 20 years, and to watch him celebrating like this, I guarantee you the whole jockey's room is celebrating with him. Robbie Alvarado, we did the piece on them earlier, talking about, I guarantee you Robbie is as cheerful as he is right now. Yeah, he didn't win it, but his long-time neighbor did win it.
What a moment for Calvin Borel, and he's going to enjoy every minute of it, and says give some credit to the horse, too. And he has been confident all through the winter, through only 2 preps. It's the first time since Sonny's Halo in 1983 that a horse has won the Kentucky Derby with only 2 races as a 3-year-old prior to coming to Churchill Downs. None of that bothered him. He was confident, supremely confident, and we see why.
Calvin had a great weekend. He won 3 or 4 races yesterday on the muddy racetrack, came back, won another one today. And when you get on a roll like that, it just, the confidence level just goes up. And him knowing he was riding this horse this weekend, he's just been floating on a cloud. He had a ton of confidence. Just a spectacular moment.
The fractions of the race almost the same as Barbaro last year. The final time for Barbaro, 201.36. Street Sense and 202.17. Not only is he the first Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner to win the Derby, he's the first 2-year-old champion since Spectacular Bid in 1979 to win the Derby. Let's go to Bob Newmeyer.
Well, Larry Jones, if you can come up for 1 second, just your runner-up ran his heart out. How happy are you?
We are good. You couldn't be any happier to be second. I tell you, we got beat by a really nice horse here. He loved Churchill Downs. We thought our horse ran huge. They both kicked away from the crowd pretty good, and he did just great. Congratulations, Calvin. Good job. Wonderful.
It's Larry Jones, trainer of runner-up Hard Spun, to Calvin Borel, and the winner, Street Sense. Kenny Rice.
All right, thanks. And how about this, the king here, Richard Petty, congratulating the king of racing right now, Carl Nafsker. Carl, congratulations. You predicted this last year.
I'll mess with car drivers. I don't have anything to do with it.
Carl, you predicted this last year. You said you had a good 2-year-old. You were going to prep him 2 times and prepare him for this Derby no matter what anybody else thought.
Yes. Yeah.
What made you feel that this plan could come together a few weeks ago?
Got a good horse. He's a top horse. He took us everywhere we've been, and he took us here today.
What about the way this race was setting up? Did you feel comfortable throughout this race?
Once I seen we got lead, yeah.
How does this compare the second time around? 17 years ago with Unbridled, of course, you won.
Just said all the same. Anytime you win the Derby, you're crazy. Okay, you're having a ball.
Congratulations, Carl. Let's go back to Tom.
All right, Kenny. Look at that crowd down there as the jubilant Calvin Borel. He even gave Street Sense a bath while he was aboard. And let's take a look, Gary, at how it all unfolded.
You'll see a very confident, impatient Calvin Borel come away from there. Sometimes the best place to be is at the back of the pack, and Calvin just breaks very, very relaxed. See, completely opposite of what I said earlier. He's not aggressive leaving there. He's doing just the opposite. He's letting everybody else bang themselves up in front of him. He knows how good this horse can finish, and there is the typical Calvin Borel move right there. Gets to the fence, and you're not going to see him come off of that thing. Clear around until almost the quarter pole before they come in the stretch. He knows that they're going a decent pace for the Kentucky Derby. Up in front of him, fractions, internal fractions. They went the half mile in 46 seconds. Knows he's going to make up some ground. He never came off the rail until right there as he comes into the stretch. He's got to come around. Hard Spun. He's taken 2 strides to Hard Spun's 1 right here. Wants to drift in just a little bit. He showed a tendency to do that in the Bluegrass Stakes. He knows that that rail is his guide. Calvin Borel switching to his right-hand whip right there. Horse getting a little bit late there, switching back into his left lead. Maybe lost his focus a little bit once he made the lead, but what a performance.
Maybe because Calvin was bouncing around on his back already might have been why he lost focus. And Hard Spun, a game second. He answered some questions that he's for real as well. But Street Sense, no question who was best today. Calvin looks, nobody's there. Hard Spun left in his wake. So let's celebrate a little bit. And Street says, hey, what's going on? I'm supposed to be running here. And Carl Nafsker, that great moment with Mrs. Ginter, the owner of Unbridled. Jim Taffel, well, he didn't tell him he loved him this time, didn't even give him a kiss. I think Jim's just as happy.
I think he is too, and I think Jim could see it all for himself right there. And as they gallop out, and you know that it's actually happening, you see him shake hands.
I wonder how many days it'll be before Calvin Borel sleeps. Todd Fletcher, another disappointing day, not in the top 4 with 5 entries as the Derby continues to elude America's leading trainer.
I really hope that Calvin can enjoy this the way he's supposed to, because as soon as he gets to the press conference, they're going to start asking him about the Preakness Stakes. He's got to enjoy this moment. Right now, Todd Fletcher's trying to figure out how he's going to beat him in the Preakness.
As we said, the longest price favorite to win the Derby, paying $11.80, $640, $460. Hard Spun, a game second. Curlin did manage to get third, his first defeat in 4 starts. You see the exacta trifecta payouts and the garland of roses placed on the withers of Street Sense. Calvin Borel boots him home in the Derby. Welcome back to Churchill Downs. We'd like to thank the MetLife Blimp for providing some of today's dramatic coverage. MetLife has the protection you need for the most important ifs in your life. Visit MetLife.com today. Well, a scintillating victory for the 2-year-old champion to win the Kentucky Derby. Street Sense on his way back to the stable area after taking the roses. Calvin Borel continues to accept congratulations. Time now for our Avodarts In Case You Missed It replay.
In case you missed it, you missed something huge here. From the middle of the gate, Calvin Borel, patient as usual, going to find his little spot next to the rail here, where he loves to be. Not going to come off of it until he gets to about the 5/16 pole. Right now you see Hard Spun establishing a lead right up front with the cherry red helmet cover on. Going to get a little bit of company up front here. We're not going to even see our eventual winner, Street Sense, until about a half a mile from the finish. Calvin Borel knows that they're going pretty rapid up front. See your 12 horse there with the lime green saddle towel. No biz like showbiz, getting a perfect trip right there. He had no excuses from the trip that he's getting at this point as they round into the backside with about 3/4 of a mile to run right here. This is where the jockeying for position really starts to take place. Everybody's got their established position. We're going to start continually picking up the pace from this point on.
And Hard Spun has taken him all the way here with Mario Pino and is opening up a little daylight right here on the backstretch.
He's opening up a little daylight, and he had his ears pricked up, which tells you that that horse Hard Spun is going very, very relaxed. Got to tell you, as they were approaching the far turn, I thought he might have been the eventual winner. Bottom left of the screen, you heard our announcer Tom Durkin called Street Sense 19th with only one horse outrun. Now, a lot of people are going to say, is Calvin Borel lucky or is he good? Well, I'd call it a combination of both. Watch how the Red Sea parts for him here. Skims the fence, gets through on every single horse in the race except for two. Knows he's got a ton of horse right now. Wheels out, comes around the last two horses. He's eating up Hard Spun with every stride. Believe me, he's passed everybody in the race right now. He knows no one's coming running. It's got to be a great feeling with that 1/8 of a mile to go, knowing you're going to win the Kentucky Derby. A childhood dream for Calvin Borel.
There he sneaks a peek back and knows he hasn't won. And I can just imagine him as he made that move on the inside down the rail, yelling, "Here I come! Here I come!"
Believe me, he wasn't hollering, because if he'd hollered, they'd have been shutting the door on. Calvin is as silent as a church mouse when he's riding the race out there.
And here is Hard Spun in front. Street Sense, though, has dead aim on him as Calvin whips him with the left hand right here just to make sure he tends to business. He doesn't want to leave anything to chance at this point. Switches sticks, takes a look, and then will come the celebration. A little premature, perhaps, as Street Sense senses. Pretty good. That's our Avidart, in case you missed it, replay. And again, the payoffs, in case you missed them: 1180, the trifecta 440, the exacta was what, 101, and the super you see there was $29,000 super payoff. And for Street Sense, he just about doubled his lifetime earnings. He had $1.5 million coming in. He takes home $1,450,000 for winning the Kentucky Derby. Here's the complete order of finish: Street Sense, Hard Spun, and Curlin. I'm a Wild and Crazy Guy, the long shot, finished 4th. Then Sedgefield, Circular Key. You saw the others down to Great Hunter, Zanjero, Liquidity, Buona Bull, Storm in May, Teufelsberg, Scat Daddy, a big disappointment, Stormello, and Cowtown Cat, the trailer. All the glory for Calvin Borel, the Louisiana Cajun, has found a home in Kentucky. Churchill Downs still abuzz after the victory by Street. For the winner's circle now for the ceremonies, and join Bob Costas.
All right, Tom, a crowded winner's circle it is. Included in the group, the governor of the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Ernie Fletcher, Bob Evans, who is the new president and CEO of Churchill Downs, presiding over his first Kentucky Derby in that capacity. And first, as I try and find him here, David Novak, the chairman and CEO of Yum Brands.
Well, Bob, it's just another fantastic race, and it's great to see another Kentucky-bred horse win the Kentucky Derby. On behalf of Yum Brands, which is Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and KFC, we've got 112 countries that watch the Derby every year. We're just thrilled to be the sponsor. I'll turn it back to you.
Bob?
Well, thanks, Bob. Hey, what a great day for Kentucky. This is terrific. We have a couple of first-time winners, jockey Calvin Borel and owner and breeder Jim Taffel. That's terrific. And to present the trophy to this year's winner of the 133rd Run for the Roses, it's my honor to introduce the governor of the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, Ernie Fletcher. Governor?
Bob, thank you very much. And let me say, as your first Derby here, you've done a fantastic job. This has been an excellent event. You even got the weather to cooperate. It has been a wonderful day. We've enjoyed having Her Majesty, the Queen of England, Elizabeth, with us. She was here for the race, and we want to say thanks for her being here and adding to the pageantry of this most coveted race. And Bob, we want to see you back next year, not only for the Derby, but for also the Ryder Cup that will be here. And we want to say thanks. And now to Jim, Gus, and Jim Jr. and Julie, as well as Carl and Calvin and the great horse Street Sense. It is my pleasure and to present this most coveted trophy for winning the greatest horse race in the world.
I agree.
The Kentucky Derby, and winning it with such an unbridled spirit.
Okay, Governor, thank you. Thank you, Governor. Well, this is the aspiration of anybody and everybody in the horse business, and it's just overwhelming, and I'm sure it's going to prove so downstream. You want to hold that with the roses?
Congratulations, Mr. Taffel.
Thank you very much.
Let's go over to Mike.
All right, thank you, Bob, and congratulations, Carl Navsker. Congratulations, Calvin Borel, Street Sense. Such an impressive winner in the Derby, and I don't think I've ever seen a happier jockey than Calvin Borel when he was out there getting off of Street Sense. Calvin, it was unbelievable.
Thank you. I want to thank the fans for being with me, and thank Mr. Carl and the owners, and then for getting me on this kind of horse and riding. I knew I had the ability. It was just to find a horse to get me there.
We want to take you through the ride right now. We're going to show you the start first, right down here on the monitor. What happened out of the gate? Anything?
No, sir. He left good, you know. I mean,
there you are, the 7-hole.
Yeah. Wanted to ease over a little bit, you know, safe ground. And once I got in front of the gray horse and got over, and it was pretty smooth from there on. And then right here, you know, and I dropped over, and then I knew I had him where I wanted.
You dropped over to the rail. That's not too surprising since you're known as Calvin Borel around here. Around here at Churchill.
Right, and when we headed up down the backside, I was watching Robbie's horse. He was about 3 lengths in front of me. So my horse has a tremendous turn of foot. You wouldn't imagine, and he does it whenever you want him to, you know.
Right here, you got some horses coming up on the outside of you. The pace was quick on the front end. You're 19th. You drop back, you only have one horse
I backed him up a little bit right here because they were going pretty good. Then I went around this gray horse, you know, but I let them go on because they were clipping pretty good right here in the front.
At this point, it looks to me like you've got a ton of horse. Did you feel like you had a ton of horse under you?
Felt like I had a bomb.
And you did. Now here you're still picking off horses and you're still down along the inside. Kind of tough sometimes to get through on that rail, but not for you.
No, sir. I had an awesome trip, you know. The only horse I had to go around was, you know, about the quarter pole. I went around one horse. I got a little tight there, but after that, you know, it was it. See, right here, when I went around, right.
That's what I think.
When I got around this horse right here, and I knew.
And Carl said this is where he saw him, right around here, and he shot through on the rail, Carl, and made the move to the outside.
Yes, well, I seen he made it through that gap there, and I seen him, there is one horse in front of him. I said, well, it's up to old Calvin and the horse. He got us here, and he's taking us there.
Calvin, when you hit the wire, you started celebrating right away.
Yeah, it's once chance of a lifetime, and I'm happy to be here, and thank Mom and Dad to get me here.
Well, gentlemen, congratulations. A great ride by Calvin Borel. Great job by Carl Navsker, and an unbelievable win by Street Sense. Let's go back to Tom Hammond.
Indeed it was, Mike Battaglia, and I'm sure Queen Elizabeth in her first Kentucky Derby did indeed enjoy it. You know, Jim Tapple, the owner's son, Jim, is a race car driver, but Calvin Borel had all the horsepower today. We continue live from Churchill Downs, where Street Sense has won the Kentucky Derby. It was a day of rewards for those who paid their dues in racing. Carl Navsker, whom you see, and Calvin Borel, the winning jockey, plus owner Jim Tapple, owner and breeder of Street Sense. And we remind you that as we see the Kentucky Derby, our thoughts do drift back to a year ago when Barbaro also was brilliant, followed by the tragedy 2 weeks later at the Preakness. And to relive all those wonderful moments and tragic moments and the outpouring of love for Barbaro, we invite you to tune in 8 o'clock Eastern and Pacific tonight for Barbaro, A Nation's Horse, here on NBC. And Gary, I wouldn't mind seeing that move once again that Calvin Borel made on the inside down the backstretch.
Well, let's show it to you. It's a great shot, and it was the winning move. Calvin Borel, as we said, having all the right breaks here as he makes his move, and it's in the lower center of your screen right there. That's the word I'm looking for. And here's the move, the winning move that Calvin Borel makes. I hate to keep going over it and over it, but you just don't get splits like this in a big race. Holes don't open up for you like that. Calvin rides this horse with a lot of confidence. He talked about the turn of foot that this horse has. When your horse is struggling, you can't make maneuvers like Calvin Borel just made right there. Those holes seem like they're moving faster than you are. He looked like he was driving a Ferrari right there. I don't know about NASCAR or anything else. He looked like he was driving a Ferrari against some slower cars there. But that was the winning move. Goes on, like you said, he starts celebrating. Why not? The race was over with about 200 yards left, and it's hard to control yourself when you know you're going to win the Kentucky Derby.
He started celebrating early and didn't stop for a long time. It was quite the scene as he accepted congratulations from all the other jockeys, saluted the crowd with his whip, standing straight up in the irons. And why not? As we said, these people have paid their dues in racing. Calvin, Jim Taffel and Carl Nafsker, and posing with the trophy just moments ago, tears in his eyes again, with Carl Nafsker, who stood by when all the other riders in the country coveted a mount on Street Sense. Taffel, Borel, and Nafsker. Well, I was just thinking, in fact, we were talking to Tom Durkin, it sets up a great Preakness in 2 weeks because Hard Spun, with all that speed, a shorter race. Street Sense can't afford to be 19th with the sharp turns and shorter race at Pimlico, and Curlin has a race under his belt.
That's
too.
right. Don't forget about Curlin. It sets up for a perfect Preakness. Tighter turns there, shorter distance. It's going to favor the front-running horses. Curlin had some trouble leaving the starting gate, so I think it's going to be a well-matched field for the Preakness Stakes in 2 weeks from today.
And, Gary, I have a feeling that this victory by Nafsker, Borel, and Taffel, very popular among those at the racetrack.
Well, they're horsemen's horsemen. Calvin Borel is a horseman. Carl Nafsker is a horseman. He stuck with his plan. Calvin stuck with his plan. Nobody is as well liked as these two on the backstretch. So, yeah, it's going to be a popular win.
Hope you enjoyed our broadcast of the 133rd Kentucky Derby with Queen Elizabeth in attendance. It is Carl Borel, the hero of the day, guiding Street Sense to a resounding victory in the Kentucky Derby. And we'll remind you, Saturday, May 19th, the Preakness Stakes right here on NBC at 5 Eastern and 2 Pacific. So for Bob Costas, Gary Stevens, Bob Newmeyer, Mike Battaglia, Kenny Rice, Donna Brothers, and Tom Durkin, in fact, all of us here at NBC, Tom Hammond saying so long from Churchill Downs. The Queen was in attendance today, making her first trip to see the Run for the Roses, the race that began in 1875, named for the classic Epsom Derby in her country. She's an avid horsewoman, so she had to appreciate this victory today by those who have paid their dues in the horse business. Calvin Borel, Carl Nafsker, and Jim Taffel. I can't say it often enough. We'll see them again in the Preakness Stakes 2 weeks' time from Pimlico in Baltimore. Again, thank you for watching the 133rd Kentucky Derby presented by Yum Brands. So long, everybody, from Churchill Downs.